Different views.
I know your story.
From different Jews.
Incredible job.
He's David Quirk.
You brought it up.
And she's Karina Quirk.
Imagine.
This is
2 Point.
Joining us now in studio is Chief Christopher Martin of the Brewer Police Department. Thank you for joining us for part 2.
We're essentially loving them to death, where I think it might be more impactful if we're really trying to find leverage points to get them started on that journey, knowing full well that there'll be stumbling blocks along the way. I like to equate it to, forget about the public policy. What if this was your child? If your child, I don't care how old they are, were actively shooting up fentanyl, would you make sure every single day to bring them safe use supplies until they're ready? Or would you be doing everything in your power to find a leverage point to get your child on a better path? I know what everyone's going to say.
Of course.
Right. So why would we have public policies that do anything any different? That's the question I have.
Well, to take it a step further, where are those treatment facilities?
Well, we have our recovery networks, Bangor Recovery Network. I mean, what a wonderful group of people.
That is, yes.
They have the recovery coaches, and the recovery coaches, these folks are trained to be the tour guides on their journey to recovery. So they know where the resources are. They know how to work the phones. How can we help you find placement for sober living housing? How can we help you find some recovery-friendly employers? How can we help you do all these things you need to get back into society and feel like you're contributing? They can guide you on that journey, so that's the first step. You know, what hasn't worked in the past, we used to bring people to the emergency room, and you knew that was going to fail.
Right. Our
emergency rooms are overrun right now. It's awful, actually. But they're out there. I mean, Maine has made millions of dollars in investments with treatment and supportive recovery over the past 6-7 years. That's some of the good things that have happened over the past 6-7 years. There's been a lot.
But it's 2 a.m. Someone's in crisis. Where do they go? Right? It's not 8 to 4.
Right. In that moment, I don't know where they can go initially. We do have a social detox in Hamden that we can call up as long as they have beds available. We have other entities that are coming up, but a lot of times it depends on what type of insurance, if they have insurance, whether or not they can get a bed. The nuances of this system, I would defer to the recovery coaches. They know what's available and they know the limitations of the system. A lot of the people that are asking us, we're trying to connect them with the barn, and the barn does a really good job.
I agree.
But you have to want it, and you have to get to a place where there's some leverage points. And when we start removing any consequence, particularly for behaviors that are not only dangerous to the individual, but they're dangerous and harmful to the community. I'm going to expand on that. I'm going to go back to what's happening currently. This built up through, we talked about the bath salts, we talked about why is it fentanyl now, and now all of a sudden, back in early 2000s, our users used to drive to Massachusetts, they'd procure enough drugs to cover their use and sell a little bit back home to cover their costs. Now, source supply is coming to Maine. Believe it or not, we have kilo quantity availability in the greater Bangor market, and I'm talking about kilos of fentanyl, kilos of methamphetamine, kilos of cocaine. We never had that in the past. We might have ounce, half ounce, half pound, but our market never had that until the past 5 years. And the people bringing that up are associated with organized crime. Directly underneath, as the drugs flow through this drug marketplace, we start with the cartels, and then we invariably go into organized crime like street gangs or ethnic gangs. So some of the groups that are operating here in this area, or that have been operating here, particularly that we've encountered, have been members of the Bloods out of New York, primarily Manhattan, Bronx area. And we've had gang members out of Hartford, Connecticut area, out of greater Boston area, and Dominican drug trafficking organizations have been around here for 5-6 years, moving quite a bit of dope. So they're bringing these much larger quantities because we have such a high demand. There's money to be made in these markets. So one of the worst things that you can do is to create public policy that nurtures this drug economy, because you're bringing more in and you're creating more demand. And when you get into drug dealing, you're getting into weapons and violence. I don't care what level. If it's a street level dealer, that weapon might be a knife, might be a screwdriver or a bat. But the higher up you go on the food chain, the more sophisticated the weaponry. The Mexican cartel may have military grade weapons, but our street gangs, they have guns. And the reason why you use guns is that you're protecting yourself from rivals. You're protecting yourself from having your product stolen, because you're not going to rely on the police, right? So that's where the weaponry comes in, and that's where the violence comes in. And we're already starting to see that in headlines in Maine and in Washington County. We're already experiencing these types of of issues, and people have to wake up and pay attention. We have to do things that's not so nurturing to a drug economy. If you want to help people from top to bottom or bottom to top, we have to pay attention to this.
Not only nurturing them for this to grow, but then once they're arrested, tell us what happens then.
Well, you get arrested, and we passed bail reform back in 2021, and we went to a cashless bail system. This is not a new concept. This was being promoted around the country with our social justice reform advocates, and states like New York were picking it up. I think Colorado picked it up. California picked it up. It was gaining traction in certain markets. We get cashless bail. And the selling point for this was that marginalized communities, it's not fair to them to require them to pay $60 for a bail commissioner. If they get arrested on a minor offense, they should have access to cashless bail because they haven't been found guilty. That's true to some extent, and maybe we should have some leniency there, but not as an absolute. So that didn't just affect Class E misdemeanors for cashless bail. It made our judges have to have a primary consideration of ability to pay. Back in the day, when you're out on bail, you're making a social contract with the community through the judicial branch that I promise not to commit more new crimes. And then you put a little something down for it. So you got some skin in the game, and you go out. And if you violate it, you're probably going to sit there, or at the very least, you're going to have to face down a judge and explain why you didn't behave. And each time it kind of gets worse and worse and worse. Well, what happened here is that judges now, instead of looking at what is the threat to the community, what is the likelihood of reoffense, do we have a history of failing to appear, the primary consideration right now is ability to pay. You have people that are multiple felony trafficking charges for fentanyl and stuff, $750 cash bail, $1,000 cash bail. Then they go out and they get grabbed again, and guess what the bail violation is? It's a Class E misdemeanor. It's created this revolving door. Now, I'm not saying that everyone that gets out on bail reoffends. That certainly is not the case. We do have a certain amount of people who constantly reoffend and really don't care. A lot of it relates back to the drug stuff. But if you go out right now and I get charged with assault or criminal trespass and I get bailed out, I'm waiting my day in court, but yet you go out and you steal every day, 3 times a week. You get caught twice a week for stealing. You get caught for trespass. You get caught for all this. You're charged 5 counts of violating your bail. We're probably going to have the same plea arrangement.
Wow.
That must be frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, but it's also, you got to be practical. Our courts are still backlogged from COVID, okay? And there's a variety of reasons for that. One reason is we have to make sure that people have adequate attorney representation in a timely manner. They're struggling to find a good solution for that. That's a piece of it. But we also have another piece where you can't find enough bailiffs, court security. You got another piece, maybe you don't have enough court clerks. Those are solvable problems. If you were to put your coffee cup down and say, if I don't have enough clerks and I don't have enough bailiffs, what do I have to do to fill these positions? Figure it out. Fill the positions, get all the courtrooms fired up again. You wouldn't have a backlog post-COVID that we have now. This is fixable if it becomes a priority. But that exists, and because of that, everyone's treading water. You know, our prosecutors at the DA's office, each prosecutor out there is carrying 300 cases each, maybe more. And that's a lot of cases to manage. It's a system that's overwhelmed. We really can't hold them much at fault for this. There are people above this that could make this better, that could say, you know what, this is a priority. Ramp up our courts, clear the backlog, let's get back to our new normal. That could be a priority, but it hasn't been made such. So all those things have an impact on public safety as well as the system. And the reason why you get these plea arrangements is because you don't know when you can get into trial.
Right.
It's just a practical application. It's a very complex thing, but if we were to identify what are the 5 most important things to us right now and what do we need to do to fix it, if you're at the car dealership and you don't have enough salespeople, you're going to figure out, what do I need to do to get salespeople here?
Yes.
Do I need to improve the pay benefits? Do I have to have a time off package? You're going to figure it out, and then you'll solve your problem. This is not unique.
After all said and done, what is the next step?
The next step, immediate step, is to shine a bright light on these challenges that we face and get people talking about it, get people involved. These are issues we have to pay attention to. There are a lot of good things that are happening, and there are some really tremendous challenges that we have to pay attention to. If we develop a sense of apathy and don't pay attention to these very things, then when it happens, it's too late. It takes a lot of resources to turn it backwards. Just getting people to talk about this, to think about it, to listen, I don't have all the answers. I simply don't. But I can look elsewhere and I can figure out that's probably not going to work too well. When we look at the decriminalization or the safe injection sites, well, I'm going to look at America's oldest safe injection site in Vancouver on site. What's happened there? What's been the characteristics of that that neighborhood? What's crime been like in the surrounding areas? I can look at all that to present day and go, I don't think that did anything to impact demand or supply. So our strategies have to focus on impacting demand and supply. But we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it together. We got to throw away the far right and the far left policies or strategies, and we just got to have common sense discussions about, would this work? Why wouldn't this work? Why this is a good idea or that's a bad idea? And for our elected folks down in Augusta, if we could just take a moment and put the D's and the R's aside and put the strategies and the gamesmanship aside and have an honest deliberation around this. No sales pitch, just an honest talk about how this has been done elsewhere. What are the likely outcomes here? What could we do? What could we try? What should we do here? Has there been any negative effects of things that we have done? And we could probably figure out or craft a path forward. But ultimately, the best that we can do is try to educate people, try to get people to be involved or think about it, and then participate in the process. But we don't have control at the end of the day. It's your elected officials that are making the laws and the public policies, and we'll have to see where that brings us. But hopefully, they'll be guided by wisdom and as they deliberate.
Well, I can agree with that. Common sense. Let's all get together and have a great conversation and figure this out once and for all. Good. Well, thank you so much, Chief, for your time today.
Yes, thank you, Chief.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to Q Point.
Follow us at qpointpodcast.com or on your favorite streaming app.
This is where you can get the news from the people who make the news.
Make sure to join us next time.
We hope you tune in.